Oh, I just cleared my throat and we're live. Look at that. What a way
Look
to
at
start a
that.
show.
Why?
Good morning. Holy crap. Again, Saturday. It's already February 6th, 2021, if you're using that calendar. And it's Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan. That's Raffi on that side. This is Dan on this side.
Oh, that's Dan on that side.
You have to point the opposite of what you really think it's going to be. But we're here each and every Saturday morning. We talk about anything car related, buying, selling, trading, leasing, credit, collecting, restoring, sometimes repairing, whatever. And what you can do, which is so cool because we're live, is you can put your questions right in the comments at any time. Oops, that's the wrong button. There it is. Post your questions in the comments and we'll answer it. And you can ask literally anything. And if we know the answer, we'll give you an honest answer. If we don't, we'll still give you what we think is an honest answer.
or we'll just entertain you trying to be honest.
Yes, that could also happen. So we're going to start the show with a little intro thing now, and then when we get to it, we'll start talking cars. All right.
Now, this time you just ran the music, but not the narration over
I didn't talk. I was too busy getting my donut ready.
You were supposed to say Clutch Radio with Don Rosenberg.
I'm Don Rosenberg. Okay. We have very special guests today.
Yes, we do.
These are donuts from Jake's Pickup here on Bainbridge Island,
which are unbelievable.
Yeah. Did you eat yours already?
No, I got mine right here. But unlike you, I have mine cut up into small, bite-sized morsels on a plate.
Yeah, I don't have scissors. This is a heck of a packaging here to keep it fresh, COVID-free and everything. I'm gonna have to rip it open with my teeth. But during the show, we'll be eating our donut. And Jake is not a donut shop, but I would put this donut against Krispy Kreme any day of the week.
Oh, easily.
This is one of the finest donuts going, and he should start shipping them nationwide, really, because
it's light and fluffy and just the right amount of sugar, and it's not smeary or too doughy. It's just right.
Yes. So I will figure out how to open this.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to have a bite of mine.
Yes. So welcome to Cars and Donuts and Coffee. I made myself a nice cup of decaf because that's all I drink now. I haven't had caffeine in over a year.
Really?
Right? Yeah, well over a year.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I haven't had alcohol not that I'm a big drinker, but since the first of the year. So this whole year,
that's great.
Alcohol.
I haven't had caffeine for, let's see, all my life.
Really?
Yeah, no coffee for me.
You have tea.
I do have tea, so caffeine is in the tea. That's true. And no alcohol either.
That's amazing.
It's probably why I have such a good memory.
It could be. You have more brain cells than most. And it's also why, Raffi's 84 years old. Look how good he looks.
Yes.
This is what happens. No coffee, no alcohol. Look at that head of hair. And then I got the hat head all the time. So welcome to the show. Today's topic is interesting because it's something I don't think we've talked about. Again, my memory isn't what it was, but it's something that I get questions about all the time. And there was a big article about something that might change, and that's credit.
Yeah.
Yes, credit.
Yes,
credit
indeed.
Is so important when buying a car because most people can't just write a check and here, I'm going to buy this car. Some people can, most people can't. And there are advantages to having credit. Even if you're planning to pay cash, I recommend you probably should still finance in certain situations. But President Biden has put forth something through the Consumer Protection Plan, or something that they're looking into, and they might get rid of the credit bureaus because they're realizing that the credit bureaus are not fair. And the credit bureau's scoring system, which is not transparent at all. And I'll give you an example. my current credit card situation is they're at 0, which is awesome. And I went up 2% because I didn't pay it on the exact day before they reported it. I usually pay it off every month. It went up. I went up 2% in my overall utilization, 2%, and my points dropped 19 points.
Oh, wow.
2%. Now they say if you have under 15, that's good. If you have under 30, that's okay. If you have over 30, that's when it really starts to ding. If you've got 99%, you're maxed out on your cards, you're going to be in the low 600s. Just that's how it is, or the 5s, depending on the scoring model.
5s, yeah.
Yeah. And to be at 2% utilization and drop 19 points, that's insane. And the credit system is so backwards that you can get your free credit report once a year. Doesn't explain why it is what it is. There are 3 credit bureaus that are used: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And you could have 3 totally different scores. I at one point had about 100 point swing between my 3 different scores, which makes no sense. But then I realized, oh, one goes to 950 and one goes to 850 and one goes to 900 and one starts at 250 and one starts at 350. So they have all these different scoring models. And then within each bureau, they have different scoring models. Like if you're going to buy a car, there's an auto model that they use where they look mainly at, can this person make their car payment? That's what they want to see. And I can remember, I mean, I was probably in my 20s the last time I was late on a car payment. And I bought so many cars that my car credit score is way higher than my regular credit score.
Well, and go ahead.
Yes, and then there's a mortgage score, and then there's a credit card score. So everybody looks at a different scoring system. So what President Biden put out is, what if we had a national database that was standardized, kind of like the FBI background check is the same no matter where you are in the country. If you've got to work with kids, you have to get the FBI background check to do your fingerprints.
Right.
Why not make a state or a nationwide credit system that doesn't care where you live, what color you are? Because that's another thing, is they're noticing that African Americans and people of color are having, they're being dinged differently than white people.
Yep. As are Hispanic and other
people of
color. They have a completely different rating. Oftentimes, even your name will result in a different credit rating just because of the assumption. There was a great article that I read last year about a woman, mixed race couple. She was an attorney, African American attorney, and her husband. They were going to sell their home, so the bank said, have someone come by and do an appraisal. So they came by and did an appraisal. She was there, and she had the child. They have a young baby with them. And the appraisal came back at substantially below market. And so just for fun, they decided they would have another appraisal done. And this time the husband stayed at home. They removed all pictures, family pictures, and a different appraiser came in and appraised the house. And not just a little bit difference, almost $100,000 difference in the value. Wow. And the same thing is true with automobiles, because if you are a person of color and you drive a car into a dealership and ask about trade-in, you will get a lower trade-in value on an average national basis, a lower trade-in value for that vehicle because you are a person of color.
Yeah, there's racism, and that's what systemic racism is all about. It's part of the system. It is happening everywhere. And part of it is too, people that are lower income can't get credit because they don't have credit. So they go to places like Rent-A-Center or, Aaron's Rentals or a buy here, pay here car lot that doesn't report what the payments they're making. Right.
And again, the issue of systemic racism, staying focused on our category of cars, people of color and women, they take their cars into service and repair places, and they are continually charged more for services they don't need. They are charged more for services that are performed that a white person, particularly white male, will not be charged.
Yeah. And what I was getting to though is that there's a lot of credit out there that, simple credit that never gets reported. So it doesn't affect their score. It doesn't help their score. And I hate the fact that, like, if you're late on your phone bill and they turn you over for collections, that shows up on your credit report. But
Right.
if you make your phone bill, pay your phone bill on time for 50 years, that's nowhere on your credit report. Now, Experian
Right.
did add a thing called Credit Boost, where they can log into your bank account and they can look at, okay, yeah, you're making your payments on time, and they'll give you a few points for it. But if you don't go in and do that, you don't get those extra points. So a national database where anything that you are given credit for should be in there, and it should be easy. If I have a car lot and I sell somebody a car and I say, okay, you can pay me $50 a week for a year to buy the car, I should be able to report that for free to some database that gives you credit for
Right.
making those payments.
Absolutely.
I have to pay a service to put that on your actual credit report.
Well, and another way to do it is the way Italy has structured their driver's license program, which is fascinating because in the United States, you get a driver's license, and if you get a ticket, that's one ding against you. If you get another ticket, it's two dings against you. If you get a third ticket, it's three dings. Then it starts to negatively affect your insurance. But there's no value for good driving or a year's worth of good driving or no tickets or anything like that. In Italy, the day you get your driver's license, they award 1,000 points to you. After a year's worth of driving without any infractions whatsoever, you move up to 1,100 points. And as long as you maintain the above 1,000 point level, you will have the opportunity to get fair insurance, fair credit for vehicle purchases. And as you build higher and higher and higher, you actually get reduction in your fees for various things, and you get credit applications with more effective or reduced interest as your driver's license point score increases.
Wow. I mean, and there's something right there. I mean, as soon as you get credit, you should be getting points up.
Exactly.
Like, it shouldn't max out at 9, this arbitrary number. It should be, oh, this guy's got a 15,000 score because he's never missed a payment in his entire life, and he's been on the credit bureau since 1954.
Right.
I mean, really, that's how it should be. It should have nothing to do with anything else.
And this is an important thing to restructure now, because more than ever, first off, automobiles, trucks, for example, are being used everywhere for personal businesses, construction, and trucks are very expensive. So if you go to buy a brand new work truck, you're going to spend $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 very quickly, and you're going to get a 7-year loan to pay it down. And the interest rate is going to be high. Now, granted, you can deduct that because it's part of your business. Please consult your accountant.
Yes,
although not
all the new rules, who knows what they are.
Yeah, exactly. But there's no value boost to you for having paid that truck off, or having paid off the previous truck or previous trucks as part of your credit history. And there should be.
Well, I mean, you do get dinged if you're late on a payment, and if you're not late, your score stays up. So, I mean, you do have that advantage. Just don't miss payments. But where paying cash hurts you is most dealerships make some money on the financing.
Yeah.
And that's called the back end. So they would rather you didn't pay cash. People like to walk, you go, I'm paying cash, give me the best deal. It's cash, cash money. Like, I'm literally going to give you $100 bills. They don't want that. First off, because it's a pain in the ass for them to report it, because they have to report anything over $10,000 in cash to the IRS. Usually they photocopy every $100 bill, so they have every serial number just in case. I mean, in LA we used to do that at least. So we'd sit there to photocopy it, so we had every serial number. Because a guy walked in one time with $40,000 in $100 bills. Well, we don't know where that came from or what it is, so we recorded every single serial number. It was ridiculous. But that might have just been an overly cautious finance manager. But a lot of times they have 0%, and you're better off financing it at 0% and putting that money in an interest earning account and taking the auto payments out, because you'll end up at the end of the term with money that'll pay all your maintenance fees probably. That's number one. Number two, they may give you a better deal on the car, the price of the car, because they're making up to 2.5%, depending on the term and the state and what the laws are, of the interest. So if you say you're paying 7.5%, the dealer might only be paying 5%. So that's negotiable a lot of times too when you see the rate. The factory rate usually isn't. If it's an incentive rate, 0%, obviously you can't get better than that. Or if it's 1.9, that is what it is. That's from the factory. But if it's from a bank or credit union and the dealer's doing it for you, sometimes they do mark it up. And let's say the car was $15,000 and you agree you're like, I only want to pay 12. They go, okay, we'll sell it at 12 because they're going to make all this money over the 6-year term on the interest that you're paying. But here's what you do if we're going to pay cash is you go ahead and finance it. And then the next month you just pay it off.
Pay it off. Yeah.
So then you didn't pay any interest. And technically they end up not making that money because it's in a reserve account, which is slimy for me to say. But some dealers, not all, some dealers are a little slimy and,
Well, and you said you can't do better than 0%. Actually, it's interesting because Deutsche Bank in Germany, if you have a deposit of $10 million that you want to put into their bank, they will guarantee you a return of minus 0.1%. That's a guarantee.
Oh, guarantee.
Yes.
So you'll end up with 990,000 guaranteed.
Guaranteed. It's if you put $10 million in, because a lot of people, unfortunately, have this problem of having excess cash. And where do you put an extra 10 million here, there, wherever, So Deutsche Bank says you can put it here because you can't, realistically speaking, store it, in a safe somewhere. $10 million is a lot of real estate.
So basically, you're paying them to hold your money.
You're paying them to hold the money, and they're guaranteeing a minus 0.1% because the fee for holding that money is essentially a minus percentage. They're not saying they're going to hold it for nothing. They're going to hold it, and they're going to take a minus 0.1% for them.
Okay, now I've seen the TV show Ozark, and I believe you're talking about this is some sort of money laundering, correct? Because I could put that 10 million at in Capital One and get 0.3% for them to hold my money.
I don't know that you could because
it wouldn't take that much.
I don't know that they would. There's some banks that actually will. There's a limit to how much money you can put in a bank to where you are now you have too much money in one institution, and you could potentially lose it. That bank.
Well, I would put 250. I would put 250 grand in 40 different banks then.
Yeah,
the limit, whatever the current limit is. It used to be 100,000 for FDIC. I think it's 250 now. Or I'd put it all into Dogecoin.
There you go.
Yeah, Elon Musk and some Dogecoin, or some AMC stock, or some GameStop stock, or something. By the way, this is not financial advice. We are not giving financial advice. I just want to say that up front.
But we will give financially related advice if you are planning to buy a car. And actually, one of the things that we were going to talk about today, a friend of mine emailed me during the week, and he said, I'm looking for a fun round-the-town car. It's going to be a third car. He and his wife have their own separate cars, and they park in their garage, and they have a 3-car garage. And they finally, during the COVID period, have cleared out the garage, and surprise, surprise, they have space to park a third car. So they thought, well, let's get a fun car, since really all we can do now is get in the car and drive. And so he has an SUV. She has a 10-year-old sedan. And he said, what kind of fun car can we go out and get? And he said, we'd like to get a convertible. So I recommended 3 cars, and one of them, BMW Z4 convertible, another one, which was the Mazda Miata, and then guess what the third one was, Dan? The
Porsche Boxster.
Oh, no. They want something that's going to be at least somewhat reliable. They don't mind, if they have to take it in and, spend $600 once a year to do whatever brakes and all that.
Definitely a convertible?
Definitely a convertible, or a retractable hardtop type.
Oh, retractable hardtop. Lexus IS 250 convertible.
No, actually, the only retractable convertible I think is the Lexus 400, the LS. Or
no,
not
the IS. My buddy has one. The IS 250. They have a
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No, but the answer was, believe it or not, because they were looking to spend less than $10,000, and it was the Volvo convertible.
Oh, the
Yeah,
Volvo.
yeah, which is a great car if you're looking for a low-cost convertible. Volvos are known for their reliability, uh, and you can get very nice ones. They made a lot of them, and many good ones are still out there. So they found a 65,000 mile Volvo convertible. I can't recall the year offhand now, but so they bought it, and it was 7,200. Really nice condition, one owner car, and there you go. Uh, so one thing to talk about is the opportunity for low cost fun cars is getting larger, because there's so many really nice cars out there that you can buy for under $10,000. And a lot of people are looking for recreation in their personal vehicles now, because it's pretty much all you can do. And
Yeah.
especially with better weather coming into the spring and summertime, great opportunity. And more people are spending more time in their cars. One of the things that they've been doing is they've been driving to, yeah, there's the Volvo convertible. Dan has a picture of it up there if you're not watching the podcast.
The C70 is what that one is.
Yeah. One of the things people are doing is they're going to getting takeout food, and they're pulling over to some park somewhere and having their food in their car.
And we do have a friend that's selling a BMW Z4, but it's in Colorado.
Yeah, that's right.
But that one is super clean, super low miles. I think it's
Really
an 04, 80,000 miles with a stick shift. It's white with a tan. It's a gorgeous vehicle.
Yeah, and I think it's either the original owner or second owner.
I think second.
Yeah, and that's what you want. You want a car that's been maintained by somebody who enjoys the car, but also hasn't put a lot of miles on it. And that was the case with this one. And that's something, again, we frequently talk about, and we certainly, it could have been an old school series car, but they're a little bit new still today, but you get great value. These were, $35,000, $40,000 cars, brand new, and you can get one with less than 100,000 miles, which will have plenty of miles remaining for you for less than a third the price of the original car.
Yeah, and convertibles now's the time to buy them.
Yeah.
You're about to hit the season where they start going up in the auction prices, because people are going to start putting them getting them ready for their lots for the spring. But if you can get one in February, March at the latest, you're going to get a better deal than if you got one, obviously, May, June, July. The other one that's awesome that are rare are the Saturn Sky and the Pontiac Solstice.
Yeah.
People love those.
And the Sky, I think, is actually the better looking of the two. But both cars, really very nice vehicles. And the Sky, I think you can get them supercharged for a very low. You can add the supercharger to it, but you can tune those cars and get a serious performance out of them.
All right, it's coming. It's time.
Dan, he's poised with his donut.
I'm about to take my first bite. Cheers, everybody. Donuts from Jake's Pickup on Bainbridge Island.
Now you take your bite, because while you're chewing, you will not be able to speak. That donut is so good.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
I mean, look at that.
Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about today too, and apologies for the barking dogs if you hear them. It's an interesting thing that's been going on now for a couple of years, and that's the movement known as the right to repair. And if you're not familiar with the right to repair movement, it's fascinating.
I'm not.
Yeah. So this is something that's happening. It's happening actually. The most interesting aspect of it for us is that farmers all over the United States have purchased these enormous vehicles to do their commercial farming, so that they can farm the food that every American eats. And while they do an already difficult job, when their equipment breaks down, they have to repair it. Well, repairs are extremely expensive. But one of the hardest things about the repair for an enormous tractor is you have to have the tractor brought over to the dealer for the dealer to do the work and then return back to your farm. Well, this can cost $1,000 to $2,000 just to transport your tractor back and forth to the facility that'll repair it. Now, while you might not think that's a big deal, there's two problems with that. Number one, while your tractor is gone, you cannot farm. So you have to wait. And a lot of times the dealers will not put you in a priority to where that you can get your tractor repaired quickly. But the biggest problem is you can no longer fix your own tractor because companies like John Deere, and John Deere is one of the ones that limits this, they will not reveal any of the tools or any of the software codes or any of the information for you to be able to repair your vehicle. And this is problematic because even the subservice people, the people that will come to your farm and fix your tractor that are independent service people cannot get access to these codes, access to the equipment, access to be able to fix the machinery that farms so that America can eat. So farmers group in Nebraska were, I believe, the first group that went about changing this. And they have pushed and pushed and pushed. And in order to get the government to support it and mandate this right to repair. And now state after state has started to stack up to get behind this. And it's fascinating to read. I don't know everything about it.
What?
Don't
Something you don't know everything about? I find that hard to believe.
Well, but what's interesting is the first time it went for review within the state of Nebraska, all of a sudden overnight, lobbyists from AT&T, Apple Computer, all these companies came to contest it because they don't want you figuring out how to access any of their equipment, because it's not just an automotive or tractor repair thing. The right to repair is for you and me and anybody else to be able to open up the back of their cell phone, the back of their computer, or have a certified technician that isn't an Apple employee also have that opportunity to do that work and do it fairly for a reasonable price as part of their ability to earn an income and part of our ability to be able to repair our equipment for a financially reasonable amount and not be victims of walking into the dealer and them saying, well, you know what, we no longer support this software, so we just recommend you getting a new one. And before you know it, you're getting a new one and they're throwing that one away.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, there are certain times where you go to work on something, it goes, if you open this, it voids the warranty. And you're like, what? And then you realize this thing's 15 years old. Who cares? There's no warranty anymore at that point. But yeah, I mean, planned obsolescence. It's really what it is. And I did see it, some guys. Yes, I'm on TikTok every now and then. I did see a guy on TikTok who owns a bunch of John Deere, and he started talking about, he was complaining about John Deere, and I was like, oh, I'm bored by this. And I went to the next story. But it is interesting that, you can't, there's certain things you just can't fix.
That's right.
Watches, you have to have a certain wrench to open up certain brands of watches, and only certain authorized repair, like a Rolex, only authorized repair places are able to go in and change anything.
Well, and more car companies don't want you under the hood of their car. They don't want you to attempt to fix their vehicle. And pretty soon, since most of the vehicles are not going to be personally owned, they're going to be leased or they're going to be part of a lease package. You will, your hood will not be openable. Your engine will not be accessible because they don't want you to cause any problems with their vehicle, because a leased vehicle is their vehicle. They're just allowing you to use it. So we'll see more and more of that. I think a brand new Porsche today, I think you can only access the fluids, and that's it. I know in the Porsche Cayman, you open the back of the car, and you can't even see the engine. The engine is completely concealed, and there's two little ports. I think one for oil and one for water. And there is a washer filler section,
like a big arrow. And that's it.
Yeah, and that's it. They do allow you to add air to the tires.
Oh, thank
yeah.
God they allow you to do that.
So there you go. And it's a fascinating thing. I think we can both do a little bit more research on it to find out more about what's going on with it. But it's really quite surprising, especially because it impacts farmers. I thought, I can understand protecting a certain amount of product intellectual property, but these guys are doing an exceptionally hard job farming so that we can eat. That's kind of important. Last time I checked.
Well, what will happen though is the Chinese companies will come in with their Chinese equipment and they'll sell it for pennies on the dollar, and they'll make it very easy to repair yourself. And then John Deere will get hurt by this in the long run, or Caterpillar.
You're very close to that, because what has happened is Eastern European countries have developed hacked software to be able to address this. And so these poor farmers and these independent repair places, they buy Eastern European hacked software so that they can hack into the tractors that they own and repair them. And that's the only way that they can do it. And they're not happy about that, nor should they be. But and John Deere, of course, is being very quiet about this. And from their side, I do see a certain aspect of it. They don't want their proprietary technology to be revealed. They don't want otherwise systems and procedures and things that are part of how the operation system works. They don't want that stuff given away. Mm-hmm. So they think they're giving it away if they allow access to repair. So I do understand that side of things, but it's I think problematic, because it involves people whose livelihoods are really at stake when they cannot repair a vehicle that is critical to serving our nation.
Yeah. And I just finished my donut from Jake's. I'm completely done now. It was absolutely delicious. And I haven't seen Jake even say hello yet. So hopefully he's watching today and knows that we're enjoying the donut.
Yeah.
Now, Adam Jones comes in with a quick comment. He got a 2021 Chrysler 300 as his rental car. And he said it's a pretty sweet ride. And it is actually a pretty sweet ride. Here's a picture of it right here. Mm-hmm. These have done well for Chrysler. It's one of I think it might be the only sedan they do now. I believe they got rid of the 200, and I think they're only doing the 300. And everything else for Chrysler and Dodge are SUVs and pickup trucks, and the Challenger and the Charger, of course, because the Charger is basically the Dodge version of this. But they make them in SRT8s, which are super fast, and it is a good rental car. And that's cool to get, it's a great way to, as we said many times, great way to test a car is to go out and rent it if you need. You get it for a very extended rental period. And our good auction buddy, Ray Pepper, says the auctions are stupid right now. He did send me a picture of a car that sold at the auction the other day. Listen to this one, Raffi. You'll love this.
Okay.
It's a 2004 Toyota Tundra SR5 four-wheel drive double cab 4x4 with the 4.7 liter engine. Mm-hmm. Now it is listed as is. It is completely an as is car. You're getting zero guarantee on this car at the auction.
Okay.
Has how many miles are on this? 104,000 miles.
Fair amount of miles.
3.4 out of 5 rating. Okay. The black book value, just to give you a clue, black book value for the car is $4,900. How much would you guess it went for at auction? This is to another dealer, by the way. This is not a public auction. It's a dealer-only auction.
Well, I'm going to guess a little on the high side, because I'm guessing that's why you're telling me that this
Good
is.
Guess.
rising. So I'm going to guess on the high side and say if it's blacked at 4,900, 6 grand, 6,300, that would be, wow, more.
Yeah, this is like over retail. Like, I don't know why somebody would pay this.
Is it 12 grand?
14.7.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Like, who would, or 14.6 was the top bid and the picture he took. So the next bid up was 14.7. Who would pay that much money for this truck? Like, if you put it on your lot, you can't get $14,995 for this truck in today's market.
The only answer to that would have to be that that the used truck market must be, the inventory must be down substantially to justify him buying at that price, or he bought it because someone specifically was looking for that truck or wanted that series, and so he had a customer, and so he bid in knowing that he could sell it, and the guy said, look, I'll pay up to 20 grand for one. So he goes and he buys it for 14.9. Let's say he's on his lot for 15 grand. He says, I got one here. You can have it for 17.5. He puts 2,500 in his pocket. Customer goes away happy. Now, that's the only situation I can think of. Otherwise, if you're buying it that on spec and you've got no customer, I don't know. Unless your dealership is in the middle of truck country where people really want a truck and they're willing to pay it. The other side of that coin is to say, that's a great opportunity for somebody who needs a work truck, but doesn't want to pay 50, 60 grand.
Yeah, I mean, it is a Toyota, so 104,000 miles is not a lot. It looks like Toyota of Seattle was actually who was selling it, so it was a trade-in. They chose not to keep it for whatever reason. So, and it's as is, so they didn't put a green light on it, which means, they either didn't do any homework on, or they said, you know what, just it's too old, we don't want it on our lot. But I mean, that is a car it's 14.7 is just a little outside the ballpark. Well, you really couldn't get it financed anywhere because of the age. Some banks would do it, but you'd have to, you can maybe get 120% of book value. So maybe you could get it up to 6 grand is the most you could finance.
Could you imagine?
8 grand down.
Could you imagine the 24-year-old kid who took it in on trade, and he's getting the riot act read to him by a sales manager? He said, you gave him $1,400 for this thing. There's no way we're going to get that. Are you kidding me? Sit down, kid. Let me tell you something about taking trade in. You work them down. You work them down. You gave him $1,400. And then off that thing goes to the auction, and everybody now in that dealership is going, anytime a truck comes in, you talk to this kid.
Here's the thing is, and this is again where dealerships are a little bit shady with, and I know some people at Toyota of Seattle, and they're not like this. They do transparent pricing. And my Acura MDX, I bought at the same auction from Toyota of Seattle, the one I got for $1,500. Typically, they have one person that's in charge of pricing the used cars at most dealerships. And if they did this deal, I'm going to guess they probably gave $4,000 at the most for this truck on trade. So they just made 10 grand on this one truck. Now the sales guy or maybe it was a kid, maybe it was a female salesman, who knows who it was, but the ones that took this in on trade, they don't see any of that. Like that doesn't come back to them. Like that's not part of the deal that, this whole deal now made, $4 grand on the front and back end of the car you sold and 10 grand on the trade in. So it's 14 grand. Here's your commission. They keep that all. And what most auctions do is, and I've done this when I've had multiple cars, is I put the car I think is going to make the most money. I put that up early, because if I'm 10 grand up, now if I've got a bunch of losers later in the auction and they get, I'm losing $1,000, all right, I'll take the $1,000 loss because now I'm still up 9 for the day.
Yeah.
Looking at some of the other cars that they have, because this is the first one of the day, they had an 05 Subaru Outback. They had a 2010 Mini Cooper. They had a 2015 Kia Sorento. They had a 2001 Toyota Corolla. So they had some other low end. They had a 2009 Nissan Cube. They barely paid anything for that. Or to make a deal, they overpaid for it. And this truck is going to help get them out of all the others. It's all math. That's why you have to pay attention to math, kids.
That's right. And math. Absolutely. And math, and then also geometry, because you think it doesn't make any difference, but boy, once you start building anything, geometry saves you. math and geometry. That's how we got pretty much everything built. But
Now, yes,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Lynn in the comments mentions he heard recently the 300 was also now discontinued. I have not yet heard that, but I'm sure they are doing the 2021. That's for sure. So maybe 2022.
I think 21 is the last year. I think. And that car, by the way, the Chrysler 300, that was a revolutionary car for Chrysler. That's a Ralph Giles or Giles. I'm not sure if the G is a soft
GIF or GIF, whatever.
Yeah. But he's the designer credited with that car. And he did a fantastic job because that car hit all the buttons everywhere. People who wanted a nice executive type sedan, people that wanted to use their car as service vehicles for limo and executive rides to the airport, that sort of thing. But it hit the all areas of sales, including average middle class people who could afford them, and upper buyers. Everybody loved it. And then in the secondary market and custom market, it went wild. So it was a hugely successful car for Chrysler, and did a great amount of boost to Ralph's career. A Haitian Canadian American.
Canadian?
Yeah.
Canadian. Now, what's interesting too is the Chrysler 300 was the last car that Barack Obama owned.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, his car sold. I forget, it went for a pretty high dollar, but he obviously, once you're a president, you can't drive anymore.
Yeah.
And once you're an ex-president, you still can't drive. Like you can't drive on public roads. You can drive on private property, but you can't drive because Secret Service has to, you have to be chauffeured around. You have to be protected. Right. And I know that Joe Biden, who's a car guy, has his 67 Corvette, I think he has, that his dad gave him.
Yeah.
He's upset. I mean, that's one of the things he's upset about is he can never really drive it on the open road ever again.
Well, I actually, as you know, every citizen in the United States has this right. I sent a letter to Joe at the White House, and I told him that I understood his plight, and I therefore, as part of my duty as an American citizen, offered to drive the car for him. So
yes,
I think that's fair.
That is fair. I think we could all, maybe he should give the car, a week at a time. 52 weeks times the first 4 years. That's 200 weeks. 200 people can get the Joe Biden Corvette.
Yeah.
What's great is that Corvette will end up in his library. You know, like Reagan has, the Air Force One in his, in the Joe Biden library in Delaware or Scranton. Or Scranton. Delaware. Yeah, probably go to Delaware because I think Scranton will get the Dunder Mifflin library. But I'm sure that car will be there. And I love the fact that we have a president whose dad was a car dealer, and worked his butt off selling cars.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of cars, we can do the segue for expensive Corvettes, and you can go to Bring a Trailer, and you can take a look at one of the most sought after Corvettes. And this is something that came up in our conversations earlier in the week. It's a very special Corvette. It's special because they made very few of them. And this particular Corvette, 1969 Corvette Mako Shark. The first year of that design was 1968. And the Stingray, which had started in 63, but changed in 1968 to this particular body style. The Corvette came with a number of different engine options, but one of the top engine options, which was not ordered often because it was primarily for drag strip performance, was this particular series engine. And it was offered in this car, which was a tuxedo black car. And there it is on the screen. And this particular car received the top bid of $610,000. Now, I had predicted that it would probably sell, that market price would be $625,000 for this car. And believe it or not, hard as it can be to believe, that was actually a good price because these cars were selling in close to 800,000 plus dollars many years ago. So their dollars have softened a little bit, but they are still very sought after. This was a highly documented car, very rare in tuxedo black. All of the components were there on the car, and a beautifully restored vehicle. So the buyer got a really top level car, and you can see all the documentation there. You can see some of the awards that it's won. It's a Bloomington Gold car, which is important in the Corvette world. Interviews with people, experts on the car. And that engine code, by the way, is the L88 engine code, which is aluminum. I'm going to not get all of the details right, and I'm suggesting some of this, hoping that Jake will jump in, because Jake is much more of a Corvette expert than I am. But the L88 option was that 427 engine with the aluminum heads, and
that is unreal.
Yeah, and over 1,000 comments, I think. And they posted in the gallery. They posted, I think, over 700 photographs of the car. So every single detail you could possibly imagine was documented on that car.
This is an interesting comment because somebody had said that the car had a better return. This was a better return on investment than the stock market. And they stated that 68.62, which was the sticker price in 1969, would only be worth $262,000 today, which is not true. He said if you did just the S&P 500, it'd be worth 1.1 million. But I think investing $610,000 in this car today versus $610,000 in the stock market today, 20 years from now, I think this car might have a better return. I think that might be a fair statement.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's interesting about this type of car is that, they reached their peak of financial growth several years ago. And it's because the mania around muscle cars and performance American cars was quite high. That's because a lot of people that had money in that certain age bracket that had grown up wanting this car could finally afford to buy it, so they were paying extra money for it. And when you've got tons of money to buy a car like that, that's a great investment, because it's something you wanted all your life. You go after it, you get it, you own it. And when you go to sell it, it's not like a stock that you're taking a big risk on where half the value can drop overnight. Here, this is never going to be a $300,000 car, period.
Yeah.
So this is a car that's going to hold its value or increase its value. And that brings us to old school for today.
Oh, already? Wow, look at that.
So old school today is going to be the 68 to 74 Corvette.
Oh.
Yeah. Believe it or not, if you are not hunting for a rare Corvette with a rare engine and the peak of performance with lots of options and something unbelievable and amazing, then just a regular Corvette with a standard engine from the late 60s to early 70s is a great way to go. Now, these are not superb performing cars with monster horsepower, but they're great open roadster cars, or you can get the closed car because the roof is removable. So this series Corvette had removable roof panels. There you can take them off and stow them. And you can have that open road feel, but you also get a genuinely good looking American car for not a lot of money. Now you can buy one and restore it. And I encourage you to do that if restoration is something that you enjoy, because these are fairly low cost cars and they're very simple. If you need brakes, if you need engine components, they are available everywhere. There's very, very basic stuff. The engines are very basic. They're V8 engines with carburetors, not complex. This is the kind of stuff that high school auto shops do all the time. The suspension is not complicated. The interior, every single part and piece and component is available for the interior through lots of different Corvette suppliers. And you can buy one that needs restoration for anywhere between $8,000 and $12,000, depending on the model that you choose. The 68s and 69s, this one I believe is a 68. Yeah. You can tell it's a 68 because it has no stingray over the vents on the side, and it doesn't have the vent pockets detailed in the side. So that's a 68.
You are correct, sir.
And so the 68s and 69s are the most expensive. The 70 and 71s are then the second most expensive, just because of the look of the car with the chrome bumpers. And as you get into the Enduraflex front bumpered cars or soft bumpered cars, those are a little bit cheaper, and the engine horsepower ratings drop on those. But still, it's a great looking car. That has to be, in my opinion, one of the best looking American cars ever manufactured. And they made quite a lot of them. So there's quite a few of them out there. If you're going to go buy one and look for something that if you've got a little bit of extra money, buy the most original one that you can. They're not going to be expensive. How much is this one, Dan?
10-2.
Yeah. So here's and it's a very nice, it's a 69. So you can get it for 10 grand. And assuming it hasn't been damaged and it's got a good ownership history, this is a car that you can drive and enjoy and never worry about. You're going to pay 10 grand for it. What's the worst that can happen? 5 years later, you sell it for 10 grand. Most likely, if you take good care of it, stay on top of things, you can sell it for more than what you paid for it, and you will have had a lot of fun enjoying it. So these are great cars, enjoyable opportunity for somebody who wants to have some fun, and not expensive at all.
Well, there you go. That's a good old school.
Yeah.
These are what's known as the C3, correct?
Is this the C3? I always forget because the ones and twos kind of blend together, but let's call it C3.
I'm pretty sure this is C3, according to Wikipedia. Then you got the C4. We're up to the C8 is the current model.
We are C8. Yep. Now, and I picked this one to old school, Dan, because I have been looking for a 1970 model car for you, because I know that your birthday is coming up. And
you're going to buy me one? So nice of you.
I am going to try and buy a Corvette for you. I think we can find one for you.
I don't know about a Corvette. Am I a Corvette guy?
Well, I don't know. How much chest hair do you have, and how far do you unbutton your shirt?
Jake, are you listening?
We're going to get calls on that one.
Jake thinks that ad's bogus.
Really?
Yeah, he said no way anyone's buying that car for 10 grand.
Well, look around and see, because there are Corvettes available. That was a particularly nice one for 10 grand.
They just posted it, so it is possible it's a scammer. But I mean, it's very detailed considering, and no broken English. Usually the scammers are like, in Nigeria, and they wire me the money and then I'll, it's some scam. But this one, the thing that bothers me with this one, it says it purchased in 2017 after complete off-a-body restoration, but they have no receipts.
Well, it is cheap. I'll say that. Most of the ones that I see tend to be in the teens to close to 20 if they're very nice. So that one is cheap, but you can get them for restoration. You can get them to restore. And, body and paint is not going to be expensive on a car like that. If you're buying something that's not a high value car, you can get a great body and paint job done at any of the top Mako shops. They do a great job for around $2,500 to $3 grand on their classic cars. Interior can be done completely at a very high level for less than $5 grand, and the motor can be rebuilt for $5 to $7 grand. So you can do an awful lot with a car like that if you're doing it outside, or you're having it jobbed out, or you do it yourself and save some time and money. You can do the interior for cars like that by yourself because they're not complex. You buy the seat skins and they come to you, and you take the old ones off, you pull the new ones on. As long as you snug up the hog clips tight underneath the seats, you'll be in good shape.
This is one that's ugly. Like they just butchered. This is a 1970 and they just customized it too much.
I can't see it.
Oh, it's not up anymore. Oh, duh. I'm sorry. I thought I was still sharing. I'm like, oh, look at this one. All right, let me go back to the first picture.
Okay. and this is a 70. So this has had some custom touches. What are they asking for this?
This one they're asking $18,999.
So now those custom features, the pocketed headlights, the hood scoop, the widened fenders, those could be period accessories or a period body kit that was done in period. And actually, it would not necessarily devalue the car, because if it was done properly, people actually like this kind of custom Corvette look. If it was done properly in period with a period kit, like the Corvette Summer Corvettes and the highly modified Corvettes, those are considered desirable if they maintain the original body panels and condition. Now, I wouldn't pay $18,900 for this, but if you could get it for 15, 16 grand, and that's a car that you think you'd like to have fun with, go for it. But I do believe that the original body is so attractive and so nice as it is that it doesn't need any modification.
And Jake is giving us the exact year. C3 was 68 to 82. C4 was 84 to 96. And then he stopped. So obviously 97 to, I'm trying to think what year they did the other change, but
yeah. Well,
Corvette Summer, Raffi, you took the words right out of Jake's mouth.
And I should also note that Jake says C3 to 82. He is correct, but there is significant body style change in the late 70s to early 80s that if you go to look for one, I recommend for old school 68 to 74. After that, the cars start to look quite a bit different. 75 is still similar, 76, 77, but by the time you get to the early 80s, very different. And one thing, if you ever find, and Jake's going to back me on this, if you ever find a 1983 Corvette for sale, buy it, because I believe there was only one ever built.
Right, the test one, right?
Yes, it was the test one. It was the prototype for the next generation, the C4, which was a phenomenal car. It was a huge technological advance for General Motors and for the Chevrolet division, and one of the most amazing Corvettes ever built. And it's the Corvette that changed everything about Corvette, because they started to really, really put in some of the top level technology into the Corvette. General Motors had almost abandoned the Corvette by the late 70s, early 80s. They were able to sort of slog through that dark period of American automobile manufacturing. And by 1984, when they released the new Corvette, it was a tour de force of engineering, with digital dashboard, with crossfire injection, with clamshell hood, with completely different chassis engineering, and just a groundbreaking car. And they sold like hotcakes.
And I know I've said this before, but I've always thought that a great, like, Law and Order or a Matlock getcha would be, guys like supposedly a car expert, and he said, well, my father had an 83 Corvette, and he goes on and on. The guy goes, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. He goes, is there something unique about that? He goes, oh, not that I know of. No, those are pretty nice cars. Aha, they didn't make an 83. Like, that's how they would catch them.
Aha!
Yes. Well, you know what? Somehow we've come to an hour. We've done our old school. We've talked to our several of our Clutchy Award winners have been, actually all of them have been in today. Adam, Ray, and Jacob. And we are building the Clutchy Award.
Yes, you will be getting Clutchy.
Probably around April 1st when we talk about the Homoculator.
Yes.
But we figure out what a Homoculator is. Finally, we did our research. We have a few Homoculators that will be mounted.
Yes.
To officially make the award. There are only 5. One will go on my desk, one will go on Raffi's desk. So we have the first, and then the 3 winners, Jake, Ray, and Adam, will each get their own Clutchy.
Yeah.
With a Homoculator on it.
And do not expect your Homoculator to be polished. You do not want to polish your Homoculator.
Oh God. Oh my God. No, you never polish your Homoculator, at least not yourself.
You'd ruin the patina. And the patina is half the value of the function and aesthetic of the Homoculator.
It absolutely is. If you have any questions during the week, you want to talk anything cars, you can send them to me, dan@danrosenberg.com, and we'll talk about them here on the show. And if not, you can also just watch the show live and we'll gladly answer your questions during the show. So that's it for this week. We'll see you next time on Clutch Radio. I'm Dan.
And I'm Raffi.
And this has been the Hour of Clutch Radio.